I think people are very proud to be from Armoy. The land here has always been very important to people, and this land here is special. The people, local people, worked it and knew how best to work it, and that sense of tradition, but also being able to adapt to modern methods as part of the people that who live here and who farm here.
Country folk, of which I'm young died in the will, whether I like it or no, they're different from town folk.
Armoy life is completely different from city life. Everybody knows you, and everybody you see in the streets stops to say hello to you. You know, you go up in the city and folk just walk by you, they won't even speak to you.
I think we're sort of bilingual. We talk among ourselves in a way that we understand one another. But when we go away, we can adapt it. And now people are coming back and living here and valuing being here and valuing who we are and how we speak.
Armoy folk are no hard to soul. Armoy folk are nice, bit thram, but good folk.
Where are we, Robert?
Well, we're at St Patrick's Church of Ireland in the Lag at Armoy. Just outside Armoy, about a mile and a half from the Armoy village. There's been a church in this site, or there's been a monastic settlement in this site since the 5th or 6th century when St Patrick formed it here. St Patrick was a very good friend of the king at that time, who was called Fergus. And Fergus gave him the grounds round here to establish a monastic settlement, which he did. And this is where he built the monastery and the round tower and everything.
The story is that Patrick was walking through this region with some holy men and some local kings or chieftains, and they heard a crying baby. They went to investigate and they found a cairn with stones, and within the cairn they found a mother who had passed away and the crying baby. And one of the party said in Irish, "Ulk," which is bad, and that's allegedly where his name came from, Ulkin. Patrick brought him up as part of his household. He sent him abroad to Gaul, to France, where he was given training and learning in theology. He came back, and then in 474 he was consecrated as the first bishop in Ireland at Dunsebrick at a holy well by St Patrick himself.
Was important in the fact that St Patrick, when he had it established, it linked up with other monastic settlers in Lindisfarne and Northumbria and the South Ireland as well. And they were looking after scholars and teaching people and converting people.
The tower itself here was also a very important monument, still is today. It still attracts a lot of tourists. They say there's a network of tunnels below the tower that come out near my house, about a mile and a half away from here, and they say they date back right to the Viking period. When the Vikings were coming, they would have used it as an escape route. The priests, the monks, would have used it as an escape route away from here.
That graveyard was interdenominational before the word was ever known. Regardless of who you were or what your religion was, when you need it buried, that's where you come.
This was a popular spot here for, as the locals would call it, the staffy lafters. If you ever hear tell of that.
What is a staffy lafter?
A staffy lafter would be somebody who, they would be scanning the papers, looking through the days, and if they see their Sunday's just been buried, they were coming and they were digging them up in the middle of the night.
Oh, get out of here.
And they were carting them off to, at that time, medicine was a big thing in the early 1900s.
They do say Burke and Hare were Northern Ireland boys.
Well, there were money to be made out of it anyway. For medical research was sort of taken off. You know, they were getting to that point in medical research where they were wanting to study human anatomy. Back then, Christian faith and that, like, there wasn't such a thing as donating a body to medical research the way it would be kind of very easy to do that in this day and age. But the doctors were myth mad to get these bodies to examine. So these stiffy lifters would have been out at night. They would have been digging up, curtain these, you know, these bodies, and they were usually 9 times out of 10 going to like Edinburgh or Scotland for medical purposes. So what you tend to find is, in a lot of the graveyards in East Antrim, North Antrim, along these coastlines here, Armoy included, you know, you tend to find that when you look in a certain period of time, you will see the ones with the slabs on them, the concreted slabs and the metal railings. And this was preventative measures took at that time to try and stop stiffy lifters.
It would have been a day's work to get a body like that lifted.
It was much more harder and difficult for them to start to dig and pull away at the railings and all to get the bodies out. So that's why you would see a lot of them, especially here, you know, North Antrim, East Antrim, because it was so handy to pop her in the boat. So you can kind of see in that period of time, they're writing in the minutes about all these bodies going missing for places. There's a lot of talk about it, and they're obviously taking precautions here by putting up the railings and stuff. So you'll see that in a lot of graveyards around about here. So it's kind of something to look out for the next time you're in. You would hardly see it now because it's so war. But as you come in the gate, and if you just directly on your left, you will see a headstain, and that's on into the wall, and it has the Reverend Wilde. The Reverend Wilde was either an uncle or the granda of Oscar Wilde, and apparently he was, as the folklore would have it, that he has attended services here at the church.
People are saying Oscar Wilde got his sense of humour and his quick tongue from his roots in Armoy.
Well, I would say get the quick tongue, alright.
There have been many great days here in the course of the history of this place, but the one that stands out in my memory was the October 1959. I just had turned 9, and the World Ploughing Match was here, the 7th World Ploughing Championship.
Oh, it was a very big event. I mean, there were people there from all over the world, and it was great. You know, people here at that time had never travelled, and it was just such a big occasion to see all the different machinery and all the flags of the different countries. There was a crowd of us young teenagers. We were all in this trailer behind the tractor. It was going across the brow of a fairly steep hill. Unfortunately, the trailer overturned and we were all tipped out.
There was a helicopter aerial spraying. The first machine to pick potatoes was demonstrated, and ploughmen came from all over the world. And they brought a stone with them. Each of them brought a stone with them, which is incorporated into this cairn of peace. The people who worked here gained the skills, and that is still very much part of the heritage of this area.
Land here is divided into fields, and fields in names.
Oh, God, all the fields and names. Gerry McMullan lived on there. He called the fields the hill, the hole, the hollow, and the big hill at the mountain. The big hill at the mountain's 1.5 to 2 acres.
The hill, the hole.
The hill, the hole, and the hollow.
And
the big hill at the mountain.
people hadn't an awful lot to do for entertainment in the evening, John.
People, well, there was no television, so there was no electric. The Knocklade, as they talked about in them days, you know, in others' houses, and they told stories, and you've been sitting terrified to go to bed. You've been that scared, telling ghost stories.
Would any of that been lubricated with a wee bit of still?
Yeah, I would imagine it was. There was a doubt with that. They would have made still around here, but I would have knew nothing about it.
I know I would know your...
All I remember was like my late father saying about the barley and barming it up and then putting it into the still, you know, and the still was a big worm that run down through, and that run through is at the still, you know, the steam turned through the cold water. It turned into liquid again, you know, and that was crystal clear. Maybe, I don't know what it would have been, 140, 150 proof, you know. Real rocket fuel. I shouldn't say this, but remember the last time I had still in the house, there was a couple of bottles of it, and I suppose I was sampling nearly too much of it, and the wife, she decided, and she just lit the fire with it when at times and not got rid of it.
You see, they said in our country that the boys that made it were whales that drithy, that they would sucked it straight for the worm.
Waiting on her coming.
They couldn't thole.
There's a distinct possibility that happened, I would say now. I'd say there's a distinct possibility.
So here we are on the spot where the old Armoy Primary School sat. It was called Armoy Primary School number 1 because there was a number 2 up at the lag, I believe. And there used to be a road here, so there's no road anymore. That would have been the road and the school here. The road has moved back and the school is just within our site here.
The primary school in the new site is 50 years old. It was in 2020. Rachael came up with this idea of creating this book. And we said, I will do a book, it'll be easy. And we started it, and it wasn't easy. But it was nice to look back and get engaged with a lot of people that had been to the school and been through the school and seeing old photos and going back through and getting their memories from people. It was nice.
From the book, we had some great stories from the people moving across. The stories I loved were that it was just like a whole new world. It must have been like going to a 5-star hotel for them because they had work in loos, they had a kitchen, they'd never had a kitchen before, and just heat. They couldn't believe the heat and the size of the place, and I love hearing them stories of people who still remember to this day the change in the schools.
Charlie, you were one of the first pupils at Armoy Primary School.
Yes, 1934 that would be. I was 7.
Did you like school?
No, never liked school.
How long did you thole school?
I went to school in 34 and I was 7 years out. 41 then that would be. We walked up to the end of that a road up there about a quarter of a mile up, and the wagonette met us there. That's the way we went to school and then left us home in the evening again.
And were you all quiet when you were sitting in
Oh, it did. There were a bit of fun going on. Whenever the horse started to, when you come to a downhill, or a gallop down the hill, quick, you know, and then the boys, the bad boys, they started a swinging, you know, you thought the thing was going to tip over.
You never done any swinging?
Just like the rest of them.
Used to be when I got older, if you picked up a girl, the first thing my dad checked out was the size of her feet. And if she had too small a feet, nope, she'd be no use in the moss, she would sink. So you had to make sure you get a girl with big feet. I've been about the moss about 60 years now. When you were fit to work, your dad would have made you go to the moss.
That wasn't a volunteer thing?
It was compulsory in the holidays. In the good weather, the moss was the place. And if you weren't at that, you were out kicking hay. My dad was sitting looking out the window waiting for the good weather, and that was it. He'd been away paring maybe 2 days. You had to pare the top off the ground, you see, to get down into the peat.
We called it flow.
Yeah.
But I've heard it called, is it scrah?
Paring the scrah off first to get out the peat. And one day I thought it was for the edge of the mountain. He was paring away ahead of us. We couldn't get him stopped.
You had to be very, very particular. I cut in the bank. So I was always brave and good at it. Plenty of power and hours and hours.
You were a priest then?
Yes, I was, pushing out with the peat spade. So I enjoyed that, and my dad, he enjoyed it. So that was mostly a brief part of my life. Cutting these peats and cutting peats for other folk that came from up the glen or Cassley or any of them boys,
If you were down on the hole, you breast it, that was going straight into the moss face. But if you were starting on level ground, that was stanking. You were digging down into it. And then he put them in the wheelbarrow, maybe a dozen or 18 of them, you whittled them out, tapped them in a big soggy lump. And then they lay there till they dried a bit, and you had to come back in a couple of days and spread them all out. They used to say it's wonderful the works of wheelbarrow, especially the trannel.
Show us what the fitting is and what the castling is.
Castling lets air through them better. They'll not sit when they're too soft to castle. So you just lean them up against other, and then you castle them for that. The fatting just dries them out a day or two, and then they're hard enough to castle. And that's the final, the wind blows through them better like that. Good weather, a couple of weeks we done them, and then it was the drawn home. That was a big shift. You got to sit on top of the load of peats and the tractor up the road.
You had to cut enough peats in the summertime to dig the whole winter.
Oh, you need it for the year. If you got it wrong, you were in trouble.
You were coil.
You were in trouble. You were coil, or there were no such thing as buying peat for nobody else wanted to sell you. They needed the rain, but there was getting often peats left. Yeah, always made sure there were enough peats in. We'll just do one more load, to be sure.
And you were ready for him?
We were ready for him, and just to be sure, in case we ran out.
Does people still do it, Morris?
Oh, you get idiots out there yet, but it's nearly all machine cut now. Some old boys for the novelty would work with luggies, peat spades, just for the novelty. Them were the days now. You look back on it, it's sad too, there's not enough of it. The youngins nowadays never got that experience. It's all about telephones now and PlayStations. And sad.
Over the years, there have been a lot of folk that have contributed to the area around Armoy and have made their mark. We've had famous runners, we've had famous boxers.
Here in Armoy, we've our own armada, the Armoy Armada. And that was a supporters club set up to support the motorbikers from here. Joey Dunlop, Jim Dunlop, Frank Kennedy and Mervyn Robinson. They were in their heyday at that time. Unfortunately, the only one of those that's left is Jim. Frank Kennedy, Mervyn and Joey all died in the sport that they loved.
There was a man in this part of the world called the Indian McCooke. Was he any friend of your own?
There's my father.
Now, the Indian was reputed to do a bit of fighting.
I would have fought a bit in his time.
Is that right?
Oh, I would die.
You don't take after him?
No, I'd be there just like that, no. See, it looks like mine, he didn't need a butter in the face.
He was known all around Armoy and far further afield for his fist fighting and stuff like that there, but I know him better as my granddad, a good decent buddy. He done a bit of scrap metal, used to get in game of hand at times. I got that tattoo there, I got it about 3 or 4 years before he died. Sure enough.
McCooke is not only a famous name around Armoy and North Antrim in general, but the McCookes had a big impact in America.
No, McCooks in America, yes.
Were they fightable?
Well, the cult and the fighting McCookes. They're in Ohio, I think it was, and in other places. The Civil War, I think. A lot of them fought about it. And I think they held their own anyway.
Not everybody's impressed with the Game of Thrones. You know, the hedges have been out there for 250 years, long time before the Game of Thrones. So there would be people here who would know have never watched the Game of Thrones.
We had American visitors came over a few years ago and they were greatly into this programme. They bought us a whole box set. Well, we watched about 5 minutes of it and that was enough. I donated the box set to the charity shop.
Jimmy, you work in the mart here?
Yes.
How long are you doing that?
I've been here since open maybe 10 years.
11, 30 lambs and 22 and a half, 22 and a half,
My role is to make sure that the sheep all comes off the tillers, into their pens, write permits, and then I do the ring. And maybe buy sheep. I buy sheep for store lambs for dairy farmers.
I reckon there's 1,500 on the sale there tonight.
That's a lot.
That's a very lot.
Many are you going to buy?
That could range from 50 to 250. It all depends who's going to ring me and wants this or wants that, you know. To go to France and Spain and, you know, whoever who wants them, and, you know, there's light lambs go to Spain and there are a lot of lambs go to France.
If a farmer's coming in with 50 sheep and he wants to sell 10, he would maybe mark some on the head and some in the middle of the back and some on the arse, or the rump, sorry.
Rump, we say.
Rump.
Rump is what
some
we
on the
say.
Rump, yeah. We keep a note of that so that whenever they go in through the auction ring, Kieran you can tell the difference between all the sheep that's coming in.
And Kieran's the auctioneer.
Kieran's the auctioneer, so then Kieran knows it's 2 different batches whenever they come with 2 different marks.
Can you tell a single word that Kieran is saying up there?
Sometimes.
When our breeding sales is here, we have people from everywhere comes here for the sheep. They love the lambs for the North Coast. Like there's nights there we would do batches of 50 and 100 store lambs going on, you know, all in one batch. Whereas like tonight I sold 15 fat lambs. You know, so you'll have anything from 1 to 100. Now I haven't seen any more than 100 going through in one batch, to be honest, but you know, that varies. Your store lambs will get on 50s and 100s.
How does Jimmy Huey manage 100 sheep?
Jimmy gets dizzy running that ring. Just goes round and round. But he never gets any thinner. He's like the rest of us.
The fat lambs the night will be ranging from £90 to £110. Store lambs will be from £65 to £85. And them highest price ewes will be from up to £250 back to £180 for hogget ewes.
What about a ram? Would you?
Our rams on there come up onto £1,000
for a good one.
And say £700 for Texel rams there last year. Suffolk rams £750, £800.
Are you a shepherdess?
Oh yes, I lamb ewes.
Do you?
Oh, happy as Larry when I'm at it.
And this isn't the time of year for
no, we lamb at the end of February. I actually sold lambs there the night.
And the lambs that you sold, they're going out onto a mountain?
No, my lambs will be going, they'll probably be dead tomorrow.
Is that right?
They'll probably go south.
To Kildare?
Somewhere. They'll definitely, I would say they'll probably be dead by tomorrow.
Oh, Tracy.
I know, but sure, that's life.
That's heartbreaking.
Sure, I could die tomorrow, sure, what odds? There you go with it.
The tank behind me is a Russian T-55 model, 1977, and that particular one came out of the Czech Republic. Seamus Black brought her out from Cambridge over here.
That would do queer damage to your yard.
It takes the top of the concrete, you know, but if you kind of go into tar at all, it just wraps that up, you know, it does. It's too, even in dry ground, it'll still wrap it up, you know, just bore off as the sods flying.
What speed would you get up to?
I don't know. They're supposed to do 50k now. I don't know. This is 5 forward and 1 reverse, but about the third round I feel it'll be the fastest you really need, you know.
And do you hit to keep Johnny under control?
Oh, you do, you do. I know a man over in England, he's called Knocklade, and he bought one of these out of, can't remember where, and he started to refurbish it, and they took the tanks off and noticed one of the tanks was heavy, and it was empty of fuel, so they cut the hole in the bottom of it, and there were 5 gold bars inside it, so that was worth 1.2 million or something, the gold bars on it, so they handed it down to the police and that there. So. That was, she was captured.
Did you hand your gold bars in?
No, unfortunately they're not in. So that was a good one to find. And I actually looked at that tank and rang about the price over, but she was that rough I didn't bother with her, you know. So he was lucky boy.
You're me. Oh, you must be.
That's true, that's true,
The 12th of July was a bit different this year because of COVID and the restrictions placed on gatherings and processions, so this year we were very localised. Whenever it is local like that there, it's nearly better because you get more heart when you're playing along and you see folk and they're all shouting on you, or folk that you know, or your family and stuff's there, and it's a bit more exciting.
You can't misbehave when you're in Armoy.
No, well that's the thing. You hate to be on your best behaviour near rowdiness. I always had it in my head I would like to play the accordion. It kind of runs in the breed of my ma's side anyway, for my ma and my uncle both played in the Armoy band. Whenever I was learning it, I would have been sitting maybe 6 o'clock in the morning. I was up for the crack at dawn, and my ma was, she kind of was heart-scunnered with me then, was the thing, because it was never, morning and a night, if I had a free minute, I was sitting practicing that accordion. Whenever the band first started, they had a man from Beattie come and taught them, John Kennedy, a great musician.
John Kennedy.
Yes,
Oh yeah, and he played a lot of instruments.
He brought tunes with him, tunes that we're still playing yet in the band, and they're very sort of specific to him. One that John brought with him was called The River Main and Sandy O'er the Sea. The River Main obviously was native to where John was from. He was a Beattie man. It flows through there and it rises in Dunloy, and we still would play at it yet.
Charlie, is there any words that you would have used when you were younger that don't get used much now?
Oh, he's a pencil. Oh. He was no use at work, and he was an old pencil. Oh. And he was only a pachel. Oh. That was if he was a bad worker.
Was there many thaveless people about Armoy?
They were sort of useless creatures.
They're a word of them, you know. I commit them at times and didn't realise they said it. 4-letter words like smee again and gan. They're not in the dictionary anymore.
Where are you gone to?
Gan, G-A-N-N, like it's not in the dictionary, and it's no just. It's a, what you would call that, just the way we talk, I call.
There was a boy talking to me right now. I was talking about footer, and he says, I never heard that word before. Well, I says, come along with us for Scotland. Footer a bit.
And you know it comes from France. Footer comes from the French.
Aye.
And the translation from the French is the physical act of love.
Well, we were never any use of that.
Folk look out for everybody, which is good to see, and I think that's a real gem of being in a village, that people look out for each other and they know each other and they know you well, you know. If you're from Armoy, you'll do alright.